Welcome to the 46th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show. Kyle Klingman here. Scott Beck there. Scott, this is your favorite thing to do. Look at brackets, break down brackets. We have the 2025 World Championships coming up. All of the brackets have been released. We get 55 and 59 on Monday, and then hopefully everyone watches from there. As we look at 55 kilograms, which will be the first bracket we will break down, it's interesting. On the lower quad, you have all of those college girls that we talked about all together, and they could all hit. You have Victoria Baez Delone, you have Carla Godinez, and you have Cristel Rodriguez all in that quad. When you look at this quad, what degree of difficulty does Cristel Rodriguez have to getting a medal?
She's gonna have a tough path. The bottom half of 55 is very deep across the board. Bottom of 55 is tough, and her lower quad is very difficult as well. So, her first match, she's gonna have a winner of Anna from Romania and China. She was a bronze at the U20s, but if China's sending her, I'm assuming she's gonna be difficult. And then after that, she would then hit Carla Godinez, who's a world bronze. And then, if she gets through that, she'll probably hit Verbena, who she had a tough time with last time, I'm assuming. As we talked about in that match, the one thing I don't want to lose sight of is that I think if Rodriguez wrestles Verbena again and then again, but, even just one next time, I think adjustments can be made where the match should look very different. But, she's going to have to get by, China or Godinez, just to get to Verbena. So there's a bunch of tough, you're going to have to win, beat some good people to medal in this weight class. Do I think Rodriguez is capable of it? Absolutely. She's exceptionally good. She's a junior world champion. She makes very good adjustments. She'll have a tall task, but, it's possible. But this is a very difficult weight class, and she's got a tough draw. And on the top side, you have Kamenets from Ukraine is the number one seed, but she'll have to take out Ushida from Japan. And then Kamaloglu from Turkey, I think, is the other one, is a 4 seed who's, dropped down to 55. It's going to be very difficult. So tough weight class, tough draw. She's going to have to wrestle, but I think she's capable of it.
Let's just point out Uchida. She is at 55 kilograms. As we mentioned, she got injured at the U20 World Championships, wrestling at 57. So we don't know where she is. And her getting into that random draw, she has a round of 32 match. There are only 2 athletes that have one of those. Fortunately for the United States, we don't have one. So Rodriguez goes right into that round of 16. But I think that's one we have to circle, keep our eye on, is see what her health looks like and just watch where she is throughout the entirety of that bracket.
As we said, number one, we don't know where she is health-wise. Number two, I don't think she's one of the stronger ones. I mean, it's a pretty strong Japanese team, even with some of the younger ones, being which we'll segue into after with Onishi at 59. The weakest weights are probably 55 and 76. So, and she was hurt, and she didn't quote medal. She forfeited out of the bronze medal match, which I'm sure she would have most likely won if she was healthy, but they maybe were cautious because the fact that she's coming back a few weeks later means that she's probably okay. But, we'll have to see. But I don't think, Japan at this weight is, one of the strongest athletes.
59 kilograms will also take place along with 2 other men's freestyle classes. So if you're watching and you see the combination, that's what's happening there. It looks pretty good for Jakara Winchester, who is our 59 kilogram representative. She's won medals at 55 kilograms and then has moved up 2 weight classes. So she will be wrestling in her second world championships at 59 kilograms. She did it last year as well, lost in the first round. But I think this is a better path for her. As you break this down, do you feel like Jakara Winchester has that path to getting a second world championship?
I think she's got a lot of work to do, but I like her draw for sure. I mean, she is China first in a preliminary, who's, I think, a U23 bronze, maybe, not, accoladed. And she'll have Turkey if she wins that. And then, she'll hit the 4 seed, most likely, which is Borgard from Canada. And as we talked about her last time, she's wrestled for a medal at Senior Worlds, doesn't have any. 5-time Pan Am champ, has wrestled well in the tournament, has a very good lace from most positions. So it's kind of that like Hildebrand kind of Jimenez lace where you can do it from most places, as does Onishi, who's on the top, very deadly lace, Onishi. But I like Jakara's draw. And then, if you look at the 1 and 2, Bogner, again, is seated higher than her accolades for sure. She'll have Vinnick from Ukraine. This is the twin Vinnick, the less accoladed one, Maria, who used to be at the lighter weight, but then it's kind of gotten a little bigger. I'm expecting her, and beat Yanyak, I think Tector in a ranking series final. So I'm expecting this Vinnick to take out Bogner. And then, she'll have to, you have Urbanova in a pigtail versus Hui from Norway, who's a senior world medalist, but was beaten by Yanyak. And then Nigeria, Adekoye, who won college nationals at the loaded 131-pound bracket. Jakara's quarter, I like where she is to get through that to the semis, which will be tough. But if Jakara's wrestling like the Jakara that's game on, she'll take everybody out and, make it to the finals, if she's on. Again, that involves a good weight cut. Will involve her just going out there to wrestle like she wants it. And if she does, she can definitely come through the side. And if she doesn't come to wrestle, there's a bunch of, landmines of people that she's more accoladed at, but will give her trouble. Keep an eye on, even though she didn't have a great junior worlds, Urbanova wound up taking bronze. We expect her to meet in the finals against Onishi, but she's good. She's young. And as I always said, she was followed around by Asgarov, who's an Olympic champion, at the one of the ranking series. So clearly Azerbaijan thinks very highly of her. It'll be interesting to see, how Jakar wrestles, who she gets. On the top side of the bracket, Brugger's a senior world medalist once, wrestling North Korea, who's Hong, who we don't know much about. But as you saw in the men's tournament, the North Koreans are here to wrestle. And then you have Onishi from Japan. It's coming as unseeded. She'll hit Sidelnikova from Russia, UWW. Is a junior world champ, I think. But Onishi's going to, barring some weird stuff, I'd be very surprised if she doesn't blitz through the top side of the bracket and just take care of business.
The big thing is that you have Onishi and Jakara separated, so they're on the opposite side of the bracket. So if Jakara is able to get to the finals, that's where you want to see her, is not have her early. Of course, she would likely pull you through, but Onishi still going off of the U20 World Championship. She seems like the class of this field, and she would be my pick for right now.
She has that Honey Badger style, deadly lace, just nonstop offense, moving you around, snaps, pulling, shucking. So we'll see. Mongolia is always tough, but I don't know. Just also anecdotally, based on just like Michaela's feedback of scrapping with her right on top of two Olympic champions, she said Onishi felt every bit as tough, if not better, than the two Olympic champions. Obviously the room's different than, the Olympics, but I think, she was game on at the U20. So I'd love to see Jakara come through that side and look good and see a good version of Jakara, make it to the finals.
She definitely can. She has the skills. We've seen the skills. She's as good as anyone technically. And so it'd be fun to see her at this age be able to pull something off.
Yeah, but if she wrestled like she did last year in the first round, it's going to be a short day, so we'll see. Well, it's up to her, really. I mean, she's certainly capable.
We'll go through the rest here starting at 50 kilograms. We broke this down in our preview. It's wide open, really, because you have a lot of the stars. You have Yui Sasaki out. She's probably going to come back next year, presumably at 50 kilograms. Don't know if she would move up to 53 or where she slots in. She's not in the tournament. Sarah Hildebrandt is retired at least from 50 kilograms. You have the Mongolians out. So this seems like a wide open weight class. Oksana Livak is the 1 seed, but that's a soft 1 seed, still like Yoshimoto is the 8 seed. They'll likely hit up in the quarterfinals. To me, Yoshimoto is the true number 1 seed, even though she has the 8. She's a 2021 world champion who beat Sarah Hildebrandt in the finals of that world championships. But looking at this, it seems like not an easy path for Audrey Jimenez, but a doable path for her to get to a medal.
I love Jimenez's draw. And if you're Levac, who, Reese was liking Levac to come through, but she just got, a landmine, with Yoshimoto as the 8. It's going to be difficult. As you said, Yoshimoto took out Sarah. Yoshimoto's exceptionally good. She's not some just random backup. She's a world champion. So the top quarter quad, I'm going to look for Levac to get knocked out by Yoshimoto. Madison Parks is a 4 seed who really isn't all that accoladed. You have the North Korea in that bottom quarter quad. But, the top, you really, I'd be surprised if Yoshimoto. And then you take the bottom, like you said, Dorjevor is from Mongolia. I'm butchering the name, sorry, but, isn't there. And the other names you said. So In India, Ankush, isn't really, highly accoladed. So, is younger as well. So I love where Audrey is here. China will be tough. And, China wrestles Turkey at Demahan in the first round. Demahan's a 2 seed. I think Audrey, if she wrestles well, she'll have Manuela Luigi or Tunisia. I'd expect her to get through that match. I actually think she matches up well. And, Turkey is been around, is physical. China, we don't know all that much in terms of, senior accolades. She's a U20 world champ, and she beat Little Morikawa. So, she's going to be decent as a U20 world champ in 2024. But Jimenez has medaled in all those age group world championships, and I expect her to certainly have a shot in that. And if she wins that, I'm looking for her to make it to the final. So we like to draw there. A lot of untested younger names, and this is a weight that normally is deadly. And I would say with the changing of the guard and the off quad, if Audrey can wrestle the way she can, I'm looking for her to have a shot at a medal for sure.
53 kilograms. What an incredibly difficult draw Felicity Taylor has when you look at that line and the path and what she has to go through. Actually, the whole bracket, really, when you look at it top to bottom, this is not an easy bracket to get through. Yepes, as we said, the returning Olympic silver medalist, she was a bronze medalist in, I believe, 2023. She's the one that actually got teched by Dom Parrish at the 2022 World Championship. So she's been around. We know what she can do. But when you look at this and you look at the path for anyone, there's just going to be a lot of landmines you got to get past.
This weight is exceptionally brutal, exceptionally deep, and Felicity has a very difficult draw. Even you look at the 1 seed. So Guzman from Ecuador, who, Don Parrish laced and got her in a lace, but you remember she started the match against Fujinami, scored 5 points, hit a double, got some exposure, ultimately got tech pinned kind of, but she has Cuba in the first round, which I don't know this Cuban that well, but, she was an Olympian. She took 7th at the world. So it's not like great accolades, but I wouldn't say that's a fun first round, and then it just gets worse. She has the A-seeds Malgren from Sweden, who's very good young wrestler. She's going to be very good. Taylor's got China, who's tough first round. If she gets through that, she'll have Malisheva from UWW, who's very tough. She's a junior world champ a long time ago in 2014. And then you're going to have Anton from India, who's a world medalist. So the top is stacked top to bottom. I'd expect Guzman to get through, but she's going to have to work. Taylor will have to beat hammer after hammer. You never know. Let's see. Maybe it's the tournament of her life, but it's an exceptionally difficult draw in a deep weight. Then you go to the bottom, the number 2 seed from North Korea, who's very good, will have to get through Mongolia. Then Maria Prevelaraki, who just won her after 15 tries European Championships, is 3-time senior world bronze. And then in the 4th seed, Yekil from Turkey, going to have to get through the landmine of landmines, who's got a pigtail, Haruna Akuno, who's a 3-time world champ and won world gold at every age group. So what I'm thinking in this weight, I'm going to expect that the top names, not the seeds, the names, the number 1 seed, I'm looking for, Ecuador, Guzman to probably get through on the top. I'm thinking Haruna Okuno, after taking out Makeda and the reigning 55-kilo world champ who dropped down and she beat, I'm expecting her to get through the bottom. We'll see. There's so many good names that a lot can happen. And as we saw with the men's tournament, there's a reason they don't just hand the awards out, the medals based on seeds and accolades. You actually have to wrestle. Very deep bracket, top to bottom.
57 kilograms. We have the GOAT. Helen Maroulis is the top seed. We've seen how good she is this season already. Looked good at Final X. Looked better at the Hungarian Open at the ranking tournament. It looks good for her. I just think anything looks good for her because I believe in Helen so much and what she can do. And she's a veteran. She knows how to prepare. I just think this is her weight class. She's the landmine. I see her getting to the finals.
I really am very high on Helen, the way she wrestled and looked amazing. And, she actually has, quote, a tough draw as a number 1 seed. She'll have Turkey first, but then coming through for her quarterfinal match would be, Samantha Stewart from Canada, is a senior world medalist at, 2 weights down. And she'll wrestle Takahara's U23 world silver, world gold. And whoever wins out of that's going to have Alieva from Azerbaijan, who's, I think, a European. She's won a lot of age group medals, very tough. Gave Jakara a good match. Jakara was up a lot, then she came back at the end. But I don't. I just see Helen taking care of business, barring some really weird stuff in a one-off throw. But Helen's very savvy. So the only way I think Alieva or Takuhara could take out Helen would be just in like a big move, and because they're big move kind of wrestlers, both of them like big moves. But Helen understands big moves. And then you have Kurchave from UWW as a 4, and she's good, but, I don't think that same level. And then, the bottom side of the bracket is kind of interesting. It's fairly thin, except in the first round, the round of 16, you'll have Selena Vinnik from Ukraine will wrestle Kexen Hong from China. They're both very good. Kexen Hong's an Olympic bronze medalist. Vinnik is a U23 world champ, world silver. Very good. So that's going to be I think that's going to be a really interesting match, actually. And whoever wins that match, I look to make the finals. This is Helen's to win. If she wrestles remotely like she has looked, I believe just from, conversation I know she's had, she's in the right mindset. She's ready to go. And I'm looking for good things from her. I'm looking for a world gold from Helen Maroulis in this weight class for sure.
And interesting just how the team scoring works. If Helen does wrestle Japan at any point and gets to the final, she could pull her back in and it's potential points. So there's just a lot of things at play and where you get seated in the bracketing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny on one hand, right? Like, we want to see Japan get beat and not place. But then the other hand is if she loses to Helen, you want her to see her to pull back, right? But she'll still have to, Alieva is no joke for stylistically for Takuhara. That's going to be a very interesting match. It's funny. It's kind of a relatively thin weight, but as a junkie in this weight class, because, I follow it pretty closely, I think there's, a couple of very interesting matchups. That would be the Takuhara Alieva if she gets by Stewart, and then the Kexen Hong Vinnik match, I think will be very interesting.
Moving on to 62 kilograms, seeded number 1, the Olympic gold medalist Matoki is the top seed. Adugo Wachuku, the American, has a round of 32 match. Ana Godinez Gonzalez on the bottom half. She has a decent draw on that quad. Is this Godinez's time to get a medal? And how do you feel about Adugo getting through the rounds?
This is, if you look at, it's a very deep weight class, but some of the participants have gone up to 65. Grace Boulin, but, she's going to have the issue she's going to have is the landmine in 62 is Bonder from Ukraine. She didn't take a senior world medal, but won U23s and dominated Macy. And she's just getting better and better from the first time we saw her at the World Cup in Coraville. She's game on. This is a very deep weight class. The top and bottom are fairly split, and the big names are fairly separated. I'm thinking Matoki on top. I'm expecting to make it to the semifinals. The Olympic champion has not won a senior world medal yet, has taken a silver and a bronze, but she beat Ozaki to make the team. She's very good. She's very solid. On the bottom quarter, though, where Dugo is, Dugo, has Turkey first. I'd expect her to take care of business. Then Charlotte Lindborg from Sweden, who's very good. She's wrestled for medals a couple of times, maybe as an age group medal. I think Dugo, I like that matchup for Dugo. Although Lindborg, you make mistakes. She's very solid, but I think Dugo could take care of her, and the style is going to give her problems. The 4th seed, Orkan Porjovor from Mongolia, is a world champion. As I've said before, Tek Keriicho, who's only a 4-time Olympic gold medalist, the only one in women, and is very good upper body. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup because a lot of the times when we see if Adugo gets through to Mongolia, because many times we say people don't want to go upper body with Adugo and avoid it. She will go upper body with Adugo. The Mongolians like to throw and they're good at it. They're very good with overhook throws too. So if you try to come in with double unders, they love that whizzer kick throw with overhooks. That's a specialty of Mongolia. But she's game on. She's getting older, no doubt. This isn't probably her prime, but she's very savvy. It'll be interesting because we'll see what happens if Adugo can get through her. Again, we talked about Adugo. I truly believe she can beat anybody in this bracket. Can she beat them all in a row? Because she will have to. She will have to beat a Lindborg, a Mongolia, and then go and beat Matoki, who's the Olympic champ, who, again, that would be interesting because Matoki will go upper body with her probably, or may try to stay away from it if she gets there. Obviously, on paper, you have to say the Olympic champs are favored, to make it through, but I'm not counting out Adugo. She can beat anybody, and I'm certainly not counting out Mongolia. I take her very seriously. She's very good. On the bottom, so Godinez, has a good, good draw for the first couple of matches, but that top quarter is dangerous. You have Dudova, who's a world champ and wrestled a bunch of world medals. She hasn't looked phenomenal. She's gone back and forth with Dugo. She's beat her, then she lost to her. You have North Korea, and then you have, Bonder, who I said is just getting better and better. So I'm looking for Bonder to come through on the bottom. I think Adidas can medal. She'll probably have to take out, if she loses to Bonder. I mean, could she beat Bonder? I guess, but in theory, on paper, she should. But Bonder's rising quickly and has looked really good. So I'm thinking my pick would be Bonder to come through, and Canadians will have to take out them, maybe Dudova for a bronze medal. But I think she's ready. She is one of the best women, period, to have not gotten a senior world medal yet. She's been in contention. She's kind of at one point or another beaten most of the participants, so she'll have to string together a good tournament. This weight is very interesting, exceptionally deep, and very stylistically they're going to launch each other probably, which will be interesting.
Although it's unlikely, we mentioned this in our preview. You have two William Penn wrestlers. You have a Dugo who wrestled William Penn, and then you have Esther Kolawali, who is currently there. She won a 2025 NAIA championship, not enrolled at the same time, but if they were to meet in some weird world, it would be in the semifinals. So Kolawali would likely have to knock off the Olympic champion Matoki in order to make that happen. And of course, a Dugo would have to make that run. Could it happen? Possibly, but that's an interesting match that has maybe a 1% chance of happening.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest, if not one of the bigger upsets in the tournament if Kolawale could. Yeah, I mean, she's very good. Don't get me. I mean, she won a very difficult way. She's very good, but the thing about Matoki is she's just very solid. She's very consistent and she's very solid and she's battle tested.
65 kilograms only has 17 competitors, but top to bottom, they're all pretty tough. And when you look at the quad that Macy Kilty is on, she has to get by some wrestlers that she has competed against before. She had that match, that wild match where she got pinned by Boolin and went back and forth. That could potentially happen in the second round. So as you look at her, that could be a quarterfinal match. She has to get by Casabieva first, then it could be Boolin. It's going to be a tough run for Macy Kilty to get to the finals, but she can make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting weight class. Her quarter bracket is very difficult. As you said, Casabieva, age group world medalist, junior world champ, I think, very solid. But, I think Macy should take care of business. Then you have an interesting match with Grace Boolin, and Ki Zhang has not done that well up at this weight. She's a 59 kilo senior world champion and she's good, but hasn't fully adjusted. But maybe she will now. I'd expect a Boolin Kilty quarterfinal, and I think the winner of that will be Mongolia and India, are decent. But I think whoever comes out of that quarter will make the finals. But it's a tough quarter bracket, and then the top is very interesting to me because you have Miwa Morikawa, who's won an age group world titles, one senior world title, I think a silver and a bronze as well. In the quarterfinals, she'll hit Kolodenko, the two from Ukraine, who's long. I'd almost pick Kolodenko against Morikawa, just stylistically and kind of accolades. But I think it's a toss-up. But then you have Ringachi from Moldova, who's on, who I expect to come through that other quarter, the second quarter, just rip through it and pretty much, Miwa, has beat Ringachi. I think they've had, she can slow her down and be very tactical. Ringachi to me keeps getting better. She's got a very awkward style. So I'm going to look for kind of a Ringachi, Ringachi, maybe Kolodenko to come through, which is kind of disrespectful to a former world champ. But I just feel it. I don't know. We'll see. This is normally not an exceptionally deep weight class, but you've had some 62s going up, and this is deep. It's solid. I think if Macy's game on, she can win this bracket. Macy's very consistent, so she's going to wrestle well. But there's people that have beaten her and have given her some problems. And, even in the quarter, she gets through. She's had problems with Mongolia. Suki's teched her at least once, maybe twice. Like, she stylistically is just going to have to really prepare for each match. The styles are all different and just really just wrestle within herself. Tall task. Can she win this weight class medal? Absolutely. She's going to have to beat good people. It's a very deep weight.
68 kilograms. This is more like it when you have an Olympic weight. There's a lot of participants. You're looking about 24 deep here or so, plus or minus. But Kennedy Blades has a first round bye, so to say. So she's in the round of 16. So she would potentially meet either India or Italy in the round of 16, whoever wins that match and gets in. But she has a tough path to get to the finals. Ishii is on that side. They could meet as early as the quarterfinals. So when you look at this, we talked about where draws matter. I think this is a situation where Kennedy Blades is still one of the favorites, but she's going to have to get through another one of the favorites in the quarterfinals.
Obviously, Kennedy Blades is a favorite in this weight class. She's dropped 2 weight classes from Olympic silver medal. She's looked really good at 68. It's a tough weight class. She's got a tough draw. I mean, Radhika from India would be hers. I'm assuming he's going to take out Italy. She's good and she's difficult. I expect Kennedy to get through that. And then Ishii is very solid. She's senior world champion. She came down and Long came up on the bottom half. So you have a bunch of world champs in this weight class. Ishii's going to be tough. She's very solid. Japan tactically understands how to wrestle the U.S., and they'll try to slow Kennedy down. I wouldn't say, Ishii's a massive favorite at all, but, Kennedy's got to wrestle well. She wrestles the way she can. She'll win this weight class, but she's got work to do. I think, Turkey's very good, the 1 seed, but I think whoever wins, whether it's Blades or Ishii, get through the finals. But it's a tough quarter bracket. In the bottom half, Shuman Zarova is very consistent, has won a bunch of world medals. Jia Long from China's a world champ, has been inconsistent, has taken some bad losses and has some good wins. And then you have North Korea Pak. I'm really thinking, probably Kyrgyzstan or China will come through, or North Korea on the bottom. But I think whoever comes to the top will be the world champ in this weight class. I'm thinking it's going to be Blades or Ishii.
Final two weights, 72 kilograms. Alex Glade, who had that unbelievable bronze medal match at the 2018 U23 World Championships, gets her first shot at the Senior World Championships. This one also has 17 wrestlers in the bracket. This has been owned historically by Amit Elor. It's not an Olympic weight. Elor won the World Championships in 2022, 23, and then she didn't, of course, wrestle at the World Championships in 2024 because she'd won the Olympics at 68 kilograms in 2024. But as we look at this, Alex Glade is the only wrestler with a pigtail in this, along with her Uzbekistani opponent. She would face Ferrucci in the round of 16. Tough draw for Alex Glade.
When we're going through this, I don't want to sound like anti-USA if I say somebody's got a hard draw, but I'm just trying to be intellectually honest and go through the weights as I know them and assess what I truly believe. And I'm using that only because, like in this case, especially, Glade, who I love, she's got a very difficult draw. After Uzbekistan, Misaka Ferrucci has won age group world titles at every level, and she's won a senior world title. She has not been fully to form. She's been more beatable in the last couple of years. I think she's battled a bunch of injuries, but she's very experienced. She'll be difficult if Glade gets through the first match. And then if ever there was somebody in the history of like a bracket, Berkberganova has taken silver, bronze, silver, 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 silver. So 3 silvers, 1 bronze in the last 4 world championships. So not seeing Amit Elor in this bracket, she is probably frothing at the mouth. Now, maybe she's complacent, thinks she'll just walk through it. I don't know. She's been exceptionally consistent. And to me, clearly in this weight class, she's the one to beat. So Glade would have to take out Uzbekistan, Japan, and then Berkberova. I think if whoever does get through that, obviously on paper, Berkberganova, is a favorite. Other than Belinska from Ukraine, Le Carpentier from France is really not really accoladed. So the top quarter bracket's deep and good. I would expect whoever most likely wins that comes through the top will win the tournament. I think the bottom half of the bracket has some athletes with accolades, but it's a little weak. And in general, this is not a deep weight class. So work to do in the top quarter bracket. I think Glade has looked great, and I think she's wrestling with nothing to lose, and that should be her attitude. Go out there and wrestle, make it happen. She's got a difficult style. She's very explosive and has done some, in that U23 World Final bronze medal match, the blast double against Mongolia for 4 with seconds left. One of the match, so you never know. Is it possible for her to medal even if she takes a loss in the front set? Absolutely, because I would think, especially if she can get through Ferrucci, which she can be. Misako is very experienced, but is not at top form. So we'll see what happens. It's a difficult quarter in a relatively weak weight class.
Final weight, 76 kilograms. Kylie Welker, when we did our preview, was not seeded, but she got the 8 seed. Someone moved out, so now she is seeded. She could possibly meet the top seed Medit in the quarterfinals. The Pan American countries, which are tough with Riasco and Marin from Cuba, they are on the bottom half, so she wouldn't have to meet those, even though she has had success against those Pan Am countries. I think Kylie Walker is situated in a fairly decent spot, but in 76, there's always going to be landmines.
If you're Kyrgyzstan, Medit, who's a world silver medalist, lost to Kagami, poor Medit. Like, that's a horrible number one seed that you were going to have to wrestle Kylie Welker in the quarterfinals, assuming Welker should get through her first match. They have a pigtail, which is good, gives her a little more time. She tends to be a slow starter, but that's a good first match. I think she absolutely, if she wrestles the way she can take out Medit. And then it's her, her good path to the finals. If she does take her out, I mean, I'm expecting her to take her out, to be honest with you. I think she's better. I think when she's on, and she's feeling it, and she's been wrestling well. This is a massive kind of a mind game for the number one seed. 1 minute you think you're the number one seed, you're in pretty good position. Now, all of a sudden, you see Kylie Welker just popped in there. You haven't been preparing for her. If I'm Welker, I'm frothing. I'm thinking I'm going to go in there, have my first match, get ready, take Medit out, and then it's my top bracket. And then, in the bottom half, obviously we talked about, Priya from India lost in the Junior World Finals. She's good. She's a Junior World Champ. And then we have Marin from Cuba, who's very difficult, as well as Ecuador. Walker's beaten Ecuador. She can beat all them. And if she comes through the top, she's going to be feeling it. Although the 8 seed, on this case, I think this is Walker's to win if she's in the right frame of mind. She's absolutely capable of, she's capable of not medaling, but she's absolutely capable of winning this weight class for sure. And I think she could win in a dominant fashion if she's ready and in the right frame of mind, which I'm expecting to see from her.
Overall, top to bottom, 10 weights. Seems like 53 kilograms and 65 kilograms are the toughest draws for the United States. And then it goes down from there. Glade, as you mentioned, at 72, has that tough potential matchup in the round of 16 against Ferrucci from Japan. But it's as expected. You're going to have some that are a mixed bag. You're going to have some that are extremely difficult. And then some you say the path looks good for our wrestlers. Either way, what do we say? You don't hand out medals. You have to get out there and you have to execute one point at a time. It's just so cliche, but that's what it's going to take. Don't think bigger than what it is. You have to get that first round match out of the way to be able to medal at the World Championships.
Yeah, I think overall, like you look at the things and you say, look at the draws. We overall, we have some good, some bad. I think the draws are what they are. We're the bad draw in many cases if we wrestle the way we're capable of. I think the best, relative draw compared to, I like Audrey's positioning relative to where it could have been, and I like that Levac and Yoshimoto are both in the top in the quarter against each other. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing at the World Championships, so for Team USA to perform, it is a momentum tournament. You saw that with individuals, especially. You saw that on the team level with the men today when they got the mojo going after a little bit of a, okay first day, not great, better today. But I think from the athlete standpoint, you see when somebody believes, like when Zahid, he just ripped through. When he got going, I mean, you just could feel the belief coming out of the television set, and he just no one was stopping him. And I think we have a bunch of athletes that can do that. I'm not just talking about the big names that have done it, but some of the younger ones. I think if they get it going, they can do some damage. So we've been waiting for this. We've been talking about it. Really excited for this tournament.